G'day, brothers. Welcome back to Semen Retention. And today's episode, I would like to talk about the resourcefulness of semen retention. So, resourcefulness means that we're making use of what we have, we're not letting things go to waste, and we find basically opportunities within the means, within our own means and within what we possess. So let's get into today's episode. Shout out to the new subs. I see you guys. Thank you. And let's get into it. So naturally, when you're on semen retention, when you retain your seed, you are being resourceful. That's just a fact. You are being resourceful when you are on semen retention. That's just a fact. You can't deny it. You are using your life force energy to maximize your purpose, your virility, meaning like your strength and your activeness. You're maximizing your imagination, your joy, and your life. All of this beautiful substance within our bodies. I can't describe it, guys. You get a second lease on life. You get a whole new level of being that you have been suppressing through your own kind of desires and filthy habits. So when you're being resourceful on semen retention, you no longer need things like excessive food, stimulants. You don't need to explore with drugs like psychedelics, depressants like alcohol, and also you don't even need to consume things like literature, art, entertainment, watching sports, motivation. You don't need motivational videos. You really don't actually need any content. You don't need any sort of validation, to be honest. You don't even need a sense of community. And you're probably thinking here, what? Like, hang on a second. Like, you're telling me you can go without these things. I'm not saying you're going without these things. Like, you're not going to go throughout your whole life without community. That would be pretty extreme. But there would be cases where people are able to do it, especially if they're practicing semen retention. And I'll tell you why. You don't need anything of this world to feel whole when you're on semen retention. You are whole and you are already connected with God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, when you retain your seed. So let's talk about how this works, okay? So when you're retaining and your internal being is resourceful, meaning that you're keeping the cultivation of your energy within inside you, you're being resourceful, you will find that your physical and third dimensional reality begins to reflect that resourcefulness, okay? So what is this? Remember, everything that happens on the physical plane of existence first is developed within the higher realms or the higher dimensions of being. So this could be, these realms are like where your thoughts are, your dreams, your imaginations, your visions, your psychic kind of abilities, all these things that live outside of our physical reality, yeah? These are literal like pure vibrations and frequencies. They're like literal higher levels. Like, let's use music as an analogy. If I was to play a note here on the guitar, it would be low, but if I was to play a note all the way up here on the guitar, it would be high. So all these higher frequencies are above us. Yeah, we can't naturally tap into them with our third reality unless we practice things like semen retention. All right, so when you are cultivating this energy in your physical being, the way that it manifests in your external world is it's acting as like a generator, okay? So we're practicing semen retention, and what we're doing is we're practicing that resourcefulness, and then now because it's happening from within, the resourcefulness starts to reflect into our external world, meaning our literal environment, the matrix, into our homes, into our communities, into our connections, our relationships, whatever. That's how it reflects. As above, so below. So if our thoughts and our semen retention is connecting to the above, it will be like the ethereal realms. It will be reflected back into the physical realm. So we use semen retention as a way of pushing it up into that kind of higher frequency, resourcefulness, and then it will reflect into the physical reality. Okay, let me try and really drive this point home. I'm going to use some examples within my life, okay? So, in my life, I have noticed that I'm no longer consuming as much. I'm approaching 1 year on semen retention and I'm no longer consuming as much. Straight off the bat, I've lost about 10 kilos. I don't know how much that is in pounds. But yeah, basically, I've lost 10 kilos at least. I'm no longer eating as much junk food. I'm no longer eating just food in general, like as much anymore. I'm doing a lot more fasting. I no longer rely on stimulants. I quit vaping. I quit, cigarettes. I wasn't really a smoker anyway, but I was smoking marijuana and sometimes would have cigarettes as well. And all these other things that I mentioned before, like, I no longer need that sense of community. I no longer need to be consuming as much art, music, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to be constantly consuming, So that's part of the resourcefulness, is you realize that you don't need to consume, because when you consume, you're actually using energy, and to digest that consumption, whether it be food or even just something like a social interaction, it takes even more energy to process it out of your system, out of your spiritual being. All that energy that you pick up from people in a social setting sits within your aura, and then you've got to be able to cleanse it out again. So I'm also seeing opportunities that manifest right before my eyes, and I'm making quick decisions and movements to enhance my reality, to enhance my being. For example, today, when I was riding back from the shops, I saw some cut down branches from a tree. So the council must have done some work and cut down some branches of a tree. They just left them on the side of the road because that's just what they do. And I saw this massive piece of, this massive branch, probably about as big as that guitar, but thick and heavy. And I just lugged it onto my bike and rode down my street, holding this thing that probably weighed about 10 kilos at least, probably 20 kilos. And this is good for firewood. So I can cut it down into little pieces, use it as firewood, because here in Melbourne, in Australia, we're approaching winter, and it's going to hit us like a ton of bricks. This is the coldest part of Australia, with the exception of Tasmania. Do I want to be going out on a cold night to the service station and getting some firewood and paying $15 for it? No, I don't. I just wanted to have it in my backyard and have it ready to go. That's what we used to do before we became obsessed with consumerism. So you might be thinking, well, why would you go out of your way to pick up pieces of wood when you can just turn on the air conditioner or the heater? Why don't you just do that? Okay, well, am I struggling financially? No, I'm not. But what's the use in consuming and using energy when we don't have to? I talked about using these opportunities that manifest right before my eyes. So I'm riding my bike on the way back from the shops towards my house. I see some wood. On the way back, I pick up the wood and take it to my house. Did it change the direction of my journey? No, it didn't. It took a little bit of time, and I picked up the wood and I made it back home. Now, what would happen on a cold winter's night when, I decide I want to have a fire outdoors? I would have to get in the car, use that energy of the car, pay for the fuel to drive to the service station, pay for the wood, and then they can print out a receipt. And then that's more paper and more just rubbish, more things being consumed, all this garbage. I sit in the car, the radio goes on, and then there's all this garbage going in my head. I'm driving down the streets. I see all the garbage, that's coming through my car, like all the pollution and all that kind of stuff coming through my car. So you got to consume a lot of stuff just to get the same result. This is the resourcefulness of semen retention, brothers. This is how it goes. I'm telling you, this is a way of being that we have to be. And let me give you another example, okay? I have been without my driver's license now for a month and a half. I have a month and a half left before I get my driver's license back. If you don't know the story, I accumulated too many demerit points, so that meant that I lost my license for 3 months. But this has been a blessing in disguise. And the funny thing about it is that this, I've said this story before, but if you haven't known and you're just new to my channel, I lost my license on the day that I relapsed on semen retention. And that was when I was seeing someone and I did the deed with them. And then on that same day, within 24 hours after I relapsed with them, I received a speeding fine that pushed my demerit points over the edge, and therefore I lost my license. So that was a semen retention penalty. Anyway, going back into being resourceful on semen retention, I've been without my driver's license now for a month and a half. I've got a month and a half left. It's been a blessing in disguise, and I'll tell you why. Since riding my bike, I've become way more resourceful, and also using public transport, I've become way more resourceful. Not only have I saved money on fuel, insurance costs, other car maintenance things like just getting my car serviced, buying, fragrances for the car to make it smell good, cleaning the car, blah, 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 this and that. Look, cars are very expensive things. Just know that, okay? Tolls, all these things that relate to cars. So not only have I saved money in that regard, riding my bike it's like a spiritual vehicle for me now. I'm allowed to enjoy the freedom of riding a bike. I'm like, anyone who is able to ride a bike will understand this, okay? When you ride a bike, you have the ultimate freedom. You cut through lanes, you can just cross the road, you can go through alleyways, you can ride on the footpath, you can go off-road, you can do this, you can do that. You don't have to worry about parking. You get right up to where you want to go. You can even, I walk my bike through shops now because I'm like, whatever, like, it's fine. My bike's clean. It doesn't matter. Okay, so you literally can get around so much quicker. Okay, not only that, I also feel that same free spirit that I did when I was a kid and when I was a teenager. And I think that's so important. And this relates to semen retention 100%. Remember those days when you were a kid and a teenager and you'd just be riding around your neighborhood, maybe on a weekend or after school, and either by yourself or with some friends, and you just ride around and you just felt the joy of just exploring. That's what, like, I remember my fond memories of, like, my childhood and teenage friends. We would just ride around, do crazy things, just be pure, and just sometimes we'd be impure and do some naughty things, like in regards to just like breaking the law kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's that joy of just getting around, having to figure your way how to get there rather than just drive down the same road. Exploring different streets. Maybe by yourself you might be singing maybe with a friend you might be having a deep conversation, all these kind of things. And yeah, it's just a free-spirited thing that is priceless. I'm telling you, if you have a bike, if you don't have a bike, go buy a bike right now, get back into it. You will understand exactly what I mean, and it's going to enhance your semen retention journey. So not only have I felt free-spirited, but I'm also exercising. So I'm exercising, which means I don't have to allocate time out of my day to solid workout routines. This is why I don't believe in gyms, and I don't really care about people that really emphasize on, like, getting shredded on semen retention and how many weights they can do. I think that's a very low streak kind of goal. Unless you're a boxer or an athlete that is professional, like, I don't see the point in working yourself like tirelessly for aesthetic reasons, because at the end of the day, look, you do what you do. You do what you do. But for me, as a musician, I just need a really good cardio. I need to be physically fit, and I'm not really desperate in attracting females that want to look at my body in something that is temporary. I don't want them to be attracted to a temporary body. I want them to be attracted to my internal spirit and soul. So exercise is another good thing. And the stress, no more stress. Like, this is the resourcefulness of semen retention, is no longer having stress is such a good thing. So I'm no longer locked into the same stress and rigidity of the majority of the people driving on the road. And, just that fear and negativity that they feel on their everyday during their commute. I watched semen retention people driving, and I've got a few videos where I'm driving, and you can just tell that they're not focused on what they have to say, because there's like a driver that's come in and cut them off or something like that, or they get distracted by something that's happening on the road. You don't have to do that when you're riding your bike or when you're on public transport. So when you're on public transport, you can read your books, you can write lyrics. If you're a songwriter, you can write. Maybe you just want to write things, like maybe write your thoughts, do a bit of self-therapy, write down your thoughts, write down some ideas, write down something that happened in the past, something that's happening now, something that's what you want to happen in the future. Manifest, use the writing as a point of manifestation and as a ritualistic way of releasing. So you can listen to music intently on public transport. Like, you don't have to worry about what's going on around you. You can just like zone in, listen to music or a podcast, and just be like, yes, I really am taking that in. Intention, brothers. This is what it's about. Intention, pure intention, semen retention. Yeah, pure intention. Intention is a huge thing, guys. The other thing about public transport is that you can observe human beings around you. Just notice the difference, the variety of human life. I've seen people with disabilities, I've seen young kids, I've seen old people, I've seen teenagers, blah, 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 different people, just a whole variety of people. And it's just interesting noticing what people living in 2025 are like compared to when I was a teenager and taking public transport as that was the only way I could. And a lot of this way of just like, being on public transport and being in on a bike or walking and stuff is a great way of just observing your reality and being inspired with just where we're living. And this is definite resourcefulness, okay? So I'm going to finish this video with a question in relation to resourcefulness. Is what you do in your daily life resourceful? I'll say it again. Is what you do in your daily life resourceful? So if you went through every single, let's split your day into 4 parts: morning, afternoon, evening, and just like sleep, okay? So we take sleep off. Well, actually, first off, you need to get your sleep in pat. So the way that you get your sleep down pat is that you make sure that you got a routine. I've started turning off my Wi-Fi at nighttime because I'm convinced that Wi-Fi is actually interrupting, certain things within our frequency. And I find that I'm having these beautiful long sleeps. In regards to the morning, is your habit to go onto YouTube? Well, that's fine. You could watch a video for a bit of, just a way of just waking up if you want, or you go for a walk. Look, it doesn't matter. The question is, are you being resourceful with your time? Because maybe you're making your breakfast or a coffee or like whatever, you're doing something and you're listening to some YouTuber like myself at the same time. That's not being unresourceful because you're consuming someone else's content whilst you're doing things that you need to do, like clean the house or whatever. I do that stuff all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. But think about it from like a way of consumption. Are you consuming things that you need to be consuming? Are you being resourceful with what you consume? Do you actually benefit from paying those extra fees for conveniences? So for example, Netflix, you've got a subscription to Netflix every month. Do you actually benefit from paying those monthly fees to watch what Netflix has to offer? Really? Do you really think that's good? Well, that's fine. That's fine by you. But for me, I just don't care about TV. I've got a YouTube subscription and that gives me my music and that gives me YouTube videos without ads, and that's all I need. One day when I transcend this reality, I will literally be fine without either. But I'm not there yet. So how does your life gain from conveniences? Yeah? Does getting some food delivered by Uber actually like benefit you, that convenience, or would have you been better off allocating that money into doing some meal prep and maybe having a bit more of a variety of what you eat, and therefore being able to benefit from healthier foods? Just think about those questions. So I'll repeat the questions again. Is what you do in your daily life resourceful? Do you actually benefit from paying extra fees for conveniences? Does that extra time you gain from convenience lead to better outcomes? Or are you suppressing your instinctive nature as a man, as a retainer? Are you suppressing your instinctive nature to explore, forage, feel the strong winds of adventure, and draw inspiration from your external reality? Are you suppressing that instinct? Because if you aren't on semen retention, the chances are you are, because you're not in touch with that natural essence, that pure masculinity, divine masculinity. Retainers, brothers, are in touch with their natural being. We are explorers, creators, and some would even say gods. We don't need convenience. We need intention and purpose. I'll say that again. We don't need convenience. We need intention and purpose, because whether we like it or not, things are going to be inconvenient in our lives. Some things are out of our control. So we always need intention and purpose over convenience. Keep retaining, brothers. I'll see you on the next video. You've been watching Semen Retention. Subscribe for more videos to come in the future, or to check out the rest of my videos and my posts. And we'll talk soon. Catch you later, dudes. See ya.